Hey, this is Anthony Cesare, and this video will show you a great tool if you suck at music theory but still want to write melodies that work well. And even if you are well versed in theory, you'll get a different perspective for writing melodies, which could result in ideas you wouldn't have come up with otherwise. For the purposes of this video, we'll say I have no knowledge of music theory. Let's pretend Will Smith flashy bulb thingied me in Men in Black. Or better yet, maybe he just slapped the knowledge right out of me. Oh, wow! Okay, so there's a free and a paid version of this tool, and a little further along in the video, I'm going to show you the free way. But the best way to do this is by using a feature in Ableton Live 11. If you have a version of Ableton earlier than 11, this feature is not included, so you might want to upgrade for it along with some of the other cool new features. So let's assume you have a chord progression you came up with and you want to write a melody to it. Here's a chord progression I came up with. When putting a melody on these chords, if you don't know theory, you might be limited to the melodies you come up with off the top of your head, since you probably won't know the key you're in. So here's where the magic in Ableton Live 11 comes in. They have a feature called Scale Mode that lets you highlight the notes in a key. When you turn on this scale button on the left-hand side of a MIDI clip, it highlights all the notes that are in the key you selected. It also adds an extra highlight at the root note of that key, which is handy. So if you flip through some of the available keys, when you find one that has highlighted notes matching the notes in your chords, then you probably found your key. And we'll see how that can help you easily write a melody. Next to that scale button that we pressed, we could see what key we're in. Now you can see from our chord progression that we're not in C major because we have notes like C sharp and F sharp in our progression that are not in this key of C major because they're not landing on the highlighted notes. So if we check the next key up, which is C sharp or D flat major, the same thing applies here. There are several notes in this progression that do not appear in our key. Like E here is not highlighted, and neither is B or D. But then when we check the next key up, D major, we see that all the notes in our progression land on highlighted notes in that key so that we can assume this chord progression is in D major. When you're doing things this way, it's probably best to make the assumption that you're in a major key and just check those. Also, you may have come up with a chord progression that has a note or two that's not in your key. So if you've checked all the major keys and none of them fit your progression perfectly, just choose the key that's as close as you can get, like one that has only one note that's not in your key as an example. Okay, so once you've found the key that your chords are in, now you can build a melody using the notes in that key. When we're adding in our melody, we're going to set our scale to D major for our melody's MIDI clip. After that, we're going to press this fold to scale button. Now that's only going to show us the notes in our key. So now we'll know that any note that we draw in will be in our key, and we can be pretty sure that we'll have options that are going to sound good. For my initial idea, I'm going to try drawing in all the notes at the same length. And then once I see how that sounds, I can manipulate those lengths to give me alternate rhythms that might work better. This makes rhythm another part of theory that you don't need to know when writing melodies this way, because you could just experiment with different rhythmic changes in your MIDI piano roll visually. By the way, I've got a free cheat sheet for you called the Easy Chord and Melody Guide that gives you quick reference charts and essential tips for putting together your melodies and chord progressions. You can grab that with a little I in the upper right-hand corner of the video or in the description below. And if this is the kind of songwriting information you're interested in and want more of, be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay updated on our latest songwriting videos. So now I'm going to start drawing in some notes for my melody since I know that all the notes shown here are in my key. Now I'll change the rhythm of the notes to give me some different options. As a general rule, when writing melodies over chords, melody notes that appear in the chord directly under it will almost always sound good. So you can usually use those chord notes as sustained melody notes. Notes that are in your key but are not in the chord directly below it tend to work better as shorter notes known as passing tones. They get you from one note to the next. And I mentioned there's also a free way to use this same concept for writing melodies. Ableton also has a web page called The Playground, which lets you do some similar things to what we've been talking about. It's a good thing to check out if you want to experiment with this way of working and you don't have Ableton 11. I'll put a link in the description for you. You can see here in Ableton's Playground that they even have a section for bass and drums if you want to play around with adding that stuff too. But we're just going to go down to the melody section for this example as we've been doing. In the Playground, we changed the key here at the top. I'm going to keep it in major and draw in some notes. From there, I can move notes or lengths and rhythms around until I get something I like. At this point, I can press the buttons above to change the key up or down to be different from the key I'm currently in. I can also change it to minor or to another mode. From there, I can add chords below that melody in the chords section, similar to how we did in our Ableton 11 example. Just note that the play button above each section only plays that particular section. So if you want to play your melody along with some chords and even bass and drums, just be sure to press play on each of those sections once you've added something to them to hear what they're going to contribute. And what you create in here can be bounced, which can come in handy if you have an earlier version of Ableton Live and you still want to utilize this concept. If you're finding this concept helpful, in our members site I have an extended version of this video that shows a few extra tricks using this method, like writing your melody before your chords, how to find the key that best fits your singing voice, and how to change your melody and chords to a minor key to give it a totally different feel. If you're interested in that, check out our members site with the link on the screen and below the video. Also, don't forget to download your free copy of the Easy Chord and Melody Writing Guide with the link on screen or below the video, and subscribe to this channel to stay updated on our latest songwriting videos.